In this video, we're going to talk about the math of cold LinkedIn outreach. Did you know that the top 1% of cold LinkedIn campaigns convert over 40% better than the bottom 99%? Yeah, I didn't realize there was such a massive disparity until I looked at the data of sales robot users of all the campaigns that they've run in 2024. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what are the key metrics you need to measure in your cold outreach campaign, especially on LinkedIn, to make sure that you're hitting the standard at all the steps of the funnel so that you're ultimately getting as many booked appointments as possible in your calendar from LinkedIn and making as much money as possible. So let's get right into it. Awesome. So before we dive deep into the numbers, let me just be very clear. This is not about spamming on LinkedIn. This is about sending thoughtful, targeted messages that make sure that you're starting business relationship. This is about sending thoughtful, targeted connection requests on LinkedIn that start real business relationships, not spam. Awesome. So I'll show you the exact calculator that we built in collaboration with our friends at Lead Magic so that you can plug in the numbers so that you can get an exact idea what numbers to target at each stage of the funnel. Perfect. So these are the different variables that we should look at. Before I dive deeper into it, let me show you the exact calculator and what you should input at every point and what you need to expect at every point of the funnel. Perfect. So this is the ROI calculator. This is what it looks like. First of all, these are the key metrics to target. Connections sent per month. This is the first and the most important metric. If you're not sending enough connection requests per month, it doesn't matter. The rest of the funnel doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to get good results. What we suggest is send anywhere between 800 to 1,000 connection requests every month. LinkedIn is still liberal about it. And then at the bottom of the funnel, you'll get enough leads. A lot of times people just send like 5 to 10 connection requests per day, and then they're not even consistent about that number. And then they come and complain that LinkedIn doesn't work for me. Yeah, of course it doesn't work for you because you're not consistent enough and you're not doing enough of a volume. Cold outreach is still very much a numbers game. So you need to have that level of consistency and send at least 800,000 connection requests per month. That's the gold standard. Perfect. So that's number one. Number two is the connection rate, right? How many of those connection requests are getting accepted? Now, you should be targeting anywhere between 20 to 40%. If it's below that, you need to fix one of two things. One, your profile, right? If your profile doesn't seem like a valuable enough profile to your target market, they're not going to accept you, right? This could mean, fixing your profile picture, fixing your headline, fixing that little text that comes up to them, right? Your headline that comes up to them when you're actually sending that connection request. And the second variable is the connection message, right? We've seen people experiment with blank connection messages, templated connection message, very, very personalized connection message. What we've seen is blank works best toward any kind of message. But if you have time, you can use AI to personalize connection messages, and that tends to work well. What we've been doing lately is just using kind of a reverse psychology hack, and we just say something like "look forward to connecting first name," and that's it. Because they're much more predisposed to looking at, yeah, like this person just is looking forward to connecting, so let me just connect, right? That kind of tends to work well. So just think of phrases like this that you can use in your pitch, in your connection message, to get a higher acceptance rate. Now there's one more nuance here. If your goal is to sell on LinkedIn, then what we've seen is that if you're just upfront about it, you're cheeky, you're funny, that tends to work as well. So here's one template that we've been using lately with a lot of success. The connection rate isn't super high, but whenever somebody connects, they're just very likely to get into a business conversation. So this is what we do. We say something like, "Hey, won't want to connect and bait you first name, so I'll be upfront. Um, Cold emails and cold calls aren't converting like they used to. LinkedIn is still crushing it for lead gen. Worth a chat." That's it, right? Even though the connection is clearly salesy, we are being upfront with them. We're not, connecting and baiting them. We're not making it awkward. We're just walking up saying, "Hey, this is the problem. Are you facing it? If yes, worth a chat. If no, no problem, right? It's okay." So that's the second metric to look at. Now, the third metric to look at is new conversation rate, like how many people are actually replying to your messages. Now, one thing I've noticed here is that a lot of people give up too quickly, right? They'll send one message right after connecting, maybe another follow up 2 days later, and then that's it. They leave it alone. Now, what you have to realize is that everybody is getting pummeled on LinkedIn. You open up your LinkedIn inbox, they'll be like thousands of pitches there, some clearly terrible, some completely relevant. Like I got some persons trying to sell me, educational courses in supply chain, right? Which obviously isn't relevant to me at all. So what you need to understand is that's who you're competing with, but that's purely noise in their inbox, right? So the reason they're not looking at your messages and not replying after two messages might not be that, they're not interested in what you're selling. It just might be that they've drowned it out. They've drowned the whole inbox out. So what our data shows is that most of the responses actually come after the third follow up, right? And the third follow up should be done at least a week into the connection request being accepted. So if you're doing that consistent follow up cadence of, follow up one an hour later after connecting, follow up two a couple of days later, follow up three, a few days later, typically 2 or 3 days, and we've seen that the third one is what gets you to convert the most, right? And we've seen roughly 80% of the replies actually come on the third follow up, which is massive, right? Which means that you need to be following up enough times to actually give yourself a good chance of starting enough conversations. And I know a lot of you might be saying, what if I'm looked at as a spammer? What if, they hate me for it? Here's the thing, right? What I've seen is in our data, and especially after doing a lot of the sales robot customer of the week interviews, what I've seen is that people love it, right? A lot of times people say, hey, thank you for your persistence. I just went through your messages and this is not for me. Or, yeah, this is interesting. I admire your persistence. Let me know when we can talk. Or they refer somebody else internally. So it clearly works, but you have to be persistent enough. So that's variable number three. Variable number four is interested rate. How many people are actually interested, right, when they reply? Typically, you should aim for an interested rate of roughly 30%, right? Like if there's 10 people who are replying, three should be interested in at least getting to know more or taking some kind of next step. If you're getting, 80 to 90% negative reply, that means one of two things is broken. Either your targeting is broken, you're targeting the wrong people, or two, your messaging is broken and you're going too hard, maybe just asking for a meeting when they're a complete stranger. Maybe you're not using enough lead magnets in your copy, and you're just trying to spam people without providing enough value up front, or without getting them to look at what is it that you're selling. Okay, so you've gone through all of these process, four variables over. Just grab a coffee and make sure you stick to the end of the video. Let's get to the next variable, discovery rate. Now this is super interesting because discovery rate is essentially how many people are hopping on a call and trying to learn more about your services, because not every sales call will convert, right? Typically your discovery rate would be 10% or 20%, right? Where some people hop on a call with you, want to learn more, but then 80% of them will not be an immediate fit. So your strategy should be, for all the people who are not a fit and you've marked them as close lost, keep nurturing them, because a lot of times it's a timing issue, a lot of times it's just a trust issue. So make sure that you've added them on LinkedIn, make sure they're a part of your email marketing list, so that if you keep pushing out great content that's valuable to them, that's solves their problems, then over time we've seen a lot of people become customers over a 6 to 12 month cycle, right? While they're not going to be immediate customers because of the timing or a trust issue, or sometimes a budget issue, right? Those are the three issues. Then finally, sixth is opportunity rate. Opportunity rate is super important. Now, how many of these, like I said, from discovery to opportunity is what you should aim for. Your defaults is close to like 30 to 40%, because what you're trying to do is see how many of these can you convert into sales. Now this is where your sales skills really come in. From discovery to opportunity, if you're getting people on sales calls but you're not able to convert them into opportunities, that could mean one of two things: you suck at sales which happens, right? So you need to learn more about sales, figure out the right kind of closing techniques, asking the right discovery questions, just ramping up your sales knowledge. And the other thing it could mean is that your offer is bad, right? Maybe they don't trust you enough, or maybe you're not doing enough guarantees, or maybe your pricing is too high, right? So these are typically the issues I see when you have a low opportunity rate. Finally, opportunity rate to close rate is pretty much understandable. Close rate is how many of you those opportunities are you actually closing, right? So that depends on how well you're following up, how well you're multi-threading into the account, right? So if you're just targeting one decision maker, maybe that's not enough. Maybe you have to go and talk to their boss. Maybe you have to do some other things to just keep the opportunity alive, right? Following up with them, sending them valuable information in the part in middle of the deal cycle. One tool I've found very useful to increase close rates is actually Aligned. That's a great tool. It's like a deal room where you can just collaborate with your buyer on the next steps, and it's basically has a mutual action plan, and you can just save the deal from no decision, which is what kills most deals. So using the right set of tools and multi-threading into the accounts increases your close rate. Finally, average sales cycle, right? So if you're closing but your average sales cycle is taking you, let's say, in a year, you'll probably die, right? Because there's a cash gap in there. You're not getting any cash for the length of the sales cycle. How do you, give your team salaries on time? How do you pay your living expenses? So all of that is super important. A sales cycle should be as low as possible. Typically, we've seen for any kind of B2B offer where you're selling a retainer of 2,000, 3,000 per month, then the average sales cycle should be anywhere between 30 to 60 days. That's what you should aim for. And then finally, the deal size, right? If the annual deal size is roughly $40,000, then the bigger the deal, the better, right? Everybody wants that big $1 million whale that you land, and then that makes your business. But typically, you should aim for, especially if you're in a services business, anything above $3,000 per month retainer is great, and then you can obviously add other bells and whistles to it. With that, let's run through a real example and calculate the ROI. So let's say I'm sending 800 connection requests a month. Let's say my connection acceptance rate is 20%. Let's say my new conversation rate is 20% as well. Interested rate, let's say is 30%. Discovery rate, let's say I'm good at it, right? Let's say it's 30%. Opportunity rate is again 20%, pretty standard. Close rate, is let's say 30% again, 33%. An average sales cycle for me is like 60 days, right? 2 months. And then when I close these deals at $10,000. Like I'm targeting a sales team. This is for me personally, right? So I can just click on calculate ROI and that's it, right? So this gives me these results. Monthly connections per rep, new connections I'm getting 160, new conversation 32, interested calls 10, discovery calls 3, opportunity is 1, close is 0, right? So that's the problem, right? So you see the clear problem there. Per rep you're barely getting anything because your certain variables are broken. Now let's play around with other variables and see what we can do to improve this. Okay, let's say instead of connection rate being 20%, it's suddenly 50%, right? Half of your people are actually converting. Now suddenly the numbers look much better, right? You have 8 new conversations, new much more interested prospects. The close deals is still 0. So this means that some variables matter much more than other, right? So let's look at how we can increase opportunities. Let's say we're getting more discoveries, it's at 50%, and let's say our opportunity rate goes up to 50% as well. Now, even with all the other variables being equal, we should be getting more deals, right? So suddenly I'm in the green, right? I'm in the black, I'm getting money, right? So those are the assumptions. Here, these are the results. So what I would encourage you guys to do, go through this ROI calculator, plug in your own data and understand what kind of, results you're getting. Now, what I would love to do is show you one of our real campaigns and show you how we are, using this tool to actually get results from cold LinkedIn outreach. So this is an example of a campaign we've been running for a little while. Now, this, remind you, is not a completely cold campaign. We are running it to our website visitors. So just for context, we get close to 15,000 visitors a month in traffic, and that traffic is warmer, right? Because they trust us, they were on our site, so we just target them and try to understand, try to start a conversation with them. So this is an example of that campaign. So you see our numbers are pretty high, right? On a monthly basis, on a monthly basis we've sent, this is like 6 months data, so this is obviously a lower number, but in 6 months we've sent 800 connection requests, 18.3 accepted, 37% response rate, and that gives us like quite a few replies as well. So if you look at the actual data and the kind of replies we're getting, A lot of those are smaller deals, but we're getting a lot of them, so we're making it up in volume. So people are saying, I just signed up today, yes, thank you. So we're adding some value, we're sending some more information, we're getting replies, we're getting some interest. But that's the thing, right? We have to basically get feedback. We're able to get feedback with this, as well as get quite a few appointments, and some of those convert into larger deals. For example, this company, which is $1 billion company, they're going to sign up for, hopefully going to sign up for our team plan. So that is how you keep a track on how many people you're reaching out, and then tweak different things to make sure you're hitting your revenue targets. All right, so that's it from me in this video. I'll put the link to the calculator in the description below. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button. We're coming up with more content around cold outreach and LinkedIn email, so that you get some success with this tactic in 2025. All right, take care now. Bye bye.